What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Filsinger Games Character Spotlight with Mike and Brock.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Brock, and we have a special guest with us here tonight, Mr. Jim Steinhoff.
Gentlemen, it's an honor and a pleasure. And hello, folks.
Sorry, I cut you off. That's what I do.
That's okay. Hi, Internet.
And tonight we're talking about Vlad Hammer and Justice.
Two exciting guys.
Yeah. So that's why we brought somebody oozing with charisma onto the show to help us get through these less than exciting characters.
Well, so, some people might have a thing for Justice. He seems to do well in some people's promotions.
He got cooler as he went on.
But we should start off with how you doing, Jimmy?
Doing really well, fellas. Doing really well. I was excited to find out that we were going to be talking about Justice and that we were going to be talking about Hammer, because these two guys have something in common that's overlooked by a lot of folks in the history, and that is these are two of the best tag partners in the history of COTG. As single stars, iffy, but you put them together with a partner and they will make that team shine. It's an intangible quality that not a lot of performers have, and these two characters were exceptional at it.
I never even thought of that.
Them on together.
Yeah.
They should become a tag team.
Yeah.
I don't know if the universe could handle it. I really don't.
Well, they kind of do. Yeah. No, never mind. I thought Dreadnought was involved again.
we can start off with the Vlad Hammer.
Vlad Hammer.
A man that Tom Filsinger actually said he hated so much he had to get rid of him.
Which I could see that, because Vlad wound up in a really bad spot really quickly.
Yep.
At first, coming into the promotion, great backstory. 18-year-old young athlete from the Soviet Union, coming in to represent his country in the GWF. Teamed up with another great young athlete from the same planet in Adam Blast. And the two of them, as the young allies, were a phenomenal babyface tag team.
And they did nothing for me.
Didn't do much for me either. And then there was something happening that I'm not sure if this was reflective of Tom's dislike or if this caused Tom's dislike. But as often happens with tag teams, eventually someone starts getting groomed for a singles push.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam Blast, over the next couple of years of that team, would wind up stealing Sweet Thing away from Vanity and would be rebranded as the U.S. Patriot to become the next big American star, heir apparent to Commander Sam.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, nothing's happening with Vlad Hammer. He's happy in the team. It's a good team, but all the attention's going on the partner. It's got to weigh on you after a while.
It's true.
Yeah. He's got an odd move on level one. What's his level one moves? One of them never made sense to me.
The Olympic roll up, spinning toe hold, leg bender, elbow drop, drop kick, body slam.
Okay. I think it might have been the roll up.
Yeah.
Which I always assumed was like a pinning maneuver.
And I did too. And it was just one of those things like, okay, wait, why am I not rolling pin? He Olympic rolled up.
Well, there's a chance you'd roll your pin.
Yeah.
If you rolled it.
If you're wrestling Ursa Major.
A 1 in 6 chance.
Yeah. Violent sneeze. Pin.
Yeah, and of the two guys, he's the one that has the tag team finisher as well. So
Yep.
he was set up to be the tag guy.
Yeah, I think he was one of the earlier guys too that had the tag finisher. He didn't have a singles finisher, did he? He was just
No.
Yeah.
Which that limited his playability.
It
Yeah,
did.
and it was a +2 tag.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which
So that-
again, put him in a tag situation, he's great. Put him in a singles, not so much.
Well, see, some people like myself just made that a 0 finish.
Okay. I like that. I just kept rolling dice in frustration, you know.
At least then you didn't have to roll up a level.
True. Yeah. But here's where it gets fun. So we have US Patriot. We have Sweet Thing becoming Ms. Liberty. We have all this positivity on one end where clearly there's a direction going of who's going to be the next main event guy for the baby faces. And Hammer winds up in a very fashionable decision for the time, hooking up with the Collector. The Collector, for those who don't know, the Collector came along in 2093. Interesting manager, a former antiquesman from Germany, who wanted to not only manage, but came in with the promise of, if the baby faces come to me, I will not only manage you, I will repackage you into a new, awesome character. Basically, I'm going to reinvent your gimmick. I'm going to make you better than before.
Yeah.
And it turned out he was lying.
Yeah,
Not about it being more awesome. You're not going to be a babyface anymore. He was recruiting you to the villain side.
Mhm.
And that wound up with two of my favorites in Cannibal and Chopper-Matic. So
we got to stay focused, Jimmy. We're on Hammer.
I'm getting there. We're coming there.
Okay.
Hammer was the next one because Hammer saw that success and thought, that's it. That's my solution. This is going to get me out of where I'm not going. And he comes back as Gemini.
The seer of the future.
Yes, he is the seer of the future. Everything about him is mysticism and tarot, which that was an interesting way to go from Olympic caliber athlete to mystic.
Mhm.
I didn't see it coming. I will give Tom credit. That was one of the character developments that completely caught me off guard.
But as Vlad Hammer, what did did he do anything for you?
As Vlad Hammer, I think one time held the tag belts, but only once. Outside of that, mixed results. You know, definitely not a dominant. Young Allies definitely weren't a dominant team.
No.
And as Gemini, didn't really break out. Gave him many chances with singles titles, but just never panned out.
As Vlad Hammer, I thought they were a step up from the Bomb Squad with the young Allies.
A very small step up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Was it a big step?
A baby step.
Yeah. They were the young babyface tag team that if they win, you lose your minds. But if they lose, well, they're young.
See,
Yeah.
For me, I pictured them as like a Rock and Roll Express type tag team, both small, young, fast guys.
Absolutely.
No muscle build to them. And I think the double drop kick is even when I made their finisher.
I believe you're right.
I don't know if it is or not. I think that's what I made it because I've said before I would picture these guys and base them on a real wrestler in my head so I cannot always get an idea, and that's what I think I did with US Patriot and Vlad Hammer.
It's officially listed as a rolling cradle followed by a top rope drop kick by Adam Blast.
Huh.
Nice.
It's kind of interesting.
I would give that more than a +2 then.
Yeah, right. A roll up with an extra oomph from a top rope drop kick. Yeah.
You see, I went the similar route with you, Mike, but instead I actually based them in my head. I was seeing the high flyers. I was seeing Jim Brunzell and Greg Gagne. where it was like, I could see these two, they'd have the baby face, but they also had a lot of great science and technique behind them.
Yeah.
You know, these are the guys who, if you were an aspiring pro wrestler, you would tape them. Not necessarily this is how you win, but if you want to understand move sets, these guys are as good as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I being like I was, started amateur wrestling when I was 12. By the time this, the game came out, and by the time Hammer came out, I think I was 18, so I was 6 years into it. Just starting my run for Team Canada on the national team, and I saw that there was going to be an Olympic level wrestler come out, and I'm like, oh, I was excited. And then I see it's Vlad Hammer, and I'm like, oh, that just killed me inside.
They should have went to Canada. No, go to
I was
Russia.
hoping for Kurt Angle and got Brad Reagans, WWF Brad Reagans.
It wasn't even that good. You wanted Scooby-Doo and you got Scrappy.
It hurt me inside, and I was like, oh, I was so pumped for it. And
He's got a lot of tags on his card, though.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Again, as a tag specialist, it doesn't get any finer.
Yeah, hard to beat for sure.
And the Gemini move actually wound up giving him longevity because that hooked him up with the occult overlord and Mesmer, and that got him into that side of the camp very strongly.
Mm-hmm.
Up until he gets poisoned.
Yeah, he, for his feuds for a couple of years, he actually did well. He lost a Mutant, lost a Whiplash, somehow beat Death Mask. And then, started feuding guys like AstroTurk and Zouave and Genghis Khan. So he started winning his feuds against those guys.
Uh-huh.
And then he got changed to Gemini and, things again. But as Vlad Hammer, they were a bottom tier tag team. He never won any gold as Vlad Hammer. He has since, but just as Vlad Hammer, he never won any gold. Won a couple of his feuds. Didn't do anything outstanding. He was always the low level tier guys that fought the low level tier guys, which is what you want.
And you gotta have those low level guys.
Oh yeah, they're very important.
He had his niche. What would we do to improve him? He was a -3 agility, +1 power.
Yeah, that's not bad.
He needed better coaching. I would have put him with someone who, from a technique or a finesse perspective, could have brushed him up. Which I really thought Commander Sam would have been that person, and it turned out he wasn't. Which, if I were to switch him to a babyface manager to improve him, the first logical progression would be I would make him a fighting titan and get him with Nexus, because I think Nexus could have developed him very well, given both of the men's skill sets and aptitudes towards moves. Or I would go outside of the box and bring back someone from back in the early days to manage him. And I'm spacing on their name. Damn it.
See, I
knew I should have taken notes.
I'd give him a +3 tag.
+3 tag finisher.
That would help him maybe win a couple more matches.
Absolutely.
I would move everything up on his level 2 offense to get rid of that level 1 move, and then give him a second level 3 move.
And if we did, and going back to what Mike said earlier, if we could put in, this could have been the first card with the asterisks saying in singles matches use other move. That he could have been perfect. And if he was, his legacy as Vlad Hammer would have really been improved. But to be honest, when he goes back to Hammer, things start turning around for him. Because after the poisoning at the hands of Mesmer, he winds up going back to his to an old friend and partner in Powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And they become Sam Stormtroopers. And that's a team that was firing on all cylinders. that team had some good success for me in my Fed.
So, and that's what everybody would do. Just move some things up. You give them the asterisk, make them singles guy as well.
Yeah.
I kind of like how that's a standard now.
Yeah.
That everybody seems to have a singles finisher as well, as if they're a tag team guy.
Yeah. And that's just something I've always done. I just thought it made sense.
Yeah, it does. It really does, because they're not going to not try and finish somebody off if they're in a singles match.
But here's a point to make, that our frustration and Tom's frustration, this might have been a learning curve in the development of the game. Maybe he was the first person that, hey, what do we do outside of a tag match?
Yeah, could be.
Maybe he was the, there's no other way to say it. Maybe he was the problem with a game mechanic that needed corrected. Maybe he's an exhibit A of a bad mechanic.
He was the Marty Jannetty.
Yep. I had him coming in at 6 feet tall, 220 pounds.
He is officially listed as 5'10", 237.
No.
Lifts in a corset.
He's pretty thick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not 240 pounds of 5'10".
No.
And it depends on what planet he was weighed on.
Yeah, different gravity intensities here.
So we can skip over to Justice.
Yes.
Justice.
Galactic Punisher's tag team partner.
Galactic Punisher.
The old Above the Law.
Yes.
What that was, in my humble opinion, that's a Hall of Fame tag team. The two of them were phenomenal. They had some of the best.
Yeah, they weren't called, sorry, they weren't called Above the Law. Above the Law was who they feuded.
They feuded, yep. Him and the Galactic Punisher, the feuds with Above the Law were as violent as I'd ever seen. I mean, this was like, they tore down the house. Every match.
They had the awesome name of Galacticops.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
Galacticops. And yes, I'll totally cop to using the whenever you play background music, whenever you're playing the matches, they got the cops theme.
Bad boys.
Bad boys would be firing us Star Wars pistol in the background. Bad boys. What you gonna do?
Yeah, it's funny. His very first feud was against Akuma.
Oh yeah, that's kind of cool.
We're talking the old Akuma with the out of the ring on level 2 Akuma.
Wow. Nice.
Because, the story was not that Akuma, the original.
Yeah.
But this is the one I have.
Yeah, the original, that Minskoff brought out was was brought in by Thantos. So that gave them an extra person.
Yep.
And so I launched him up against, it was, so Justice fought Akuma. And he drew against him.
Did you see they wrote that into the storyline for the Galacticon giveaway from a couple years ago?
No.
Really?
Yeah, his official bio. I'll try and pull that up while we're talking. It's kind of topical now because you brought him up.
Yeah, and then he moved on to fighting the Keepers of the Stone, feuding Scourge. So I never had the Above the Law feud. So he spent 3 years fighting with Galactic Punisher, feuding the Keepers of the Stone, and I like that feud. I thought they were both evenly matched.
Absolutely, that was a good feud. What was weird to me about Justice was before coming into wrestling, he was a judge, which I've always wondered what the backstory was, because that's like one of the weirder one career jump to another career jump. I'm going to go from a judge to a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
And you got to remember when these cards came out, though.
Oh yeah, but you know what I love? It was never addressed The only time his background as a judge was addressed was they made a comment when Pegasus came in that at one point Pegasus was the judge in the trial where Pegasus was accused of illegal gambling.
Yeah, I always thought there was another thing that Tom stole off me because during the COTG Dream Federation, I made a character who was a judge become a bad guy wrestler, and he was known as Judge, and Rob made a character named Jury, and they were the judge and jury. We had a what do you call it? A manager called the Warden.
I like that.
No, I changed it up to the Executioner, so you could have judge, jury, and executioner. But yeah, the whole backstory was he was a judge that was, you know, driven out, you know, got disbarred because he was caught, you know, cheating and favoring people. But that was the whole backstory. And then about a year later, Justice comes out, and I'm like, another one. Hey. Awfully familiar.
It's weird how it gets into our brain, isn't it?
Yep. But Justice is done now for me, just because, you know, everybody knows I rank my wrestlers 1 through 5. Justice was always a 2-point wrestler.
Okay.
So he was a low-level wrestler because he had 4 downs. He couldn't keep you down. He only had 1 down on level 3. And you know, that's 3 out of the 4 things you need to be a level 2 wrestler. But so he captured 5 Galaxian titles for me.
Wow.
Which is the low level title. So he's only facing guys level 1 and 2, and he didn't have any really long runs. And recently though, he just captured what I call the tournament title. So it's 4 guys and they wrestle a tournament every card. And so he's managed to capture that title. And the champion gets the number 1 ranking, and you know, he faces off against the number 4 guy. And so every card they've got a small little mini tournament, and the champion's got to win. Now I do the champion favor, so his pin becomes 0.
In my Fed, Justice became a record setter in that he became the first wrestler to win 4 different tag team straps with 4 different partners.
Well, that's impressive.
Yeah.
It's like Billy Gunn.
Yeah. First with Galactic Punisher, then with US Patriot, then with Dreadnought, and then with Defender of the Realm.
Huh.
So he, as a tag wrestler, he might be the best of all time for my Fed. That's a lot of ground to cover, but no one else has come close to 4 different partners having success. But there's one thing we haven't discussed yet about the original Justice card, which to me, I agree with Mike, he was a 2, but this one thing about him made him a must-play card.
Oh, that finisher.
Shock Probation, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That thing was dynamite. Because you roll that, because you could roll, I forget if it went all the way up to a 5 or a 6 for the potency, but when you have a finisher
6 would
like
miss.
that,
Yeah, 6 missed.
6 missed, but when you can go up to a +5 on a finisher,
Yeah.
it brought that, it kind of brought the diamond cutter element of, it's a move that could come out of nowhere. In the blink of an eye, he could turn a fight.
Mm-hmm.
So that both in the tag matches and also as a singles competitor, this was not someone you could dismiss as being lower tier. This was someone who was a consistent threat in every single match against any opponent. Heck, when you have a finisher like that, you have a chance against chaos.
Right.
It's unreal.
Yeah, he's won some big matches and some feuds because of it. But
yeah,
those 4 downs he's got on defense.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say he was invincible. I just said he had great moments. 4 downs.
Oh yeah.
When
He's balanced in that way.
When they teamed up,
I think that's my card. I think I'm 4 downs.
When him and Punisher were a tag team, I always do I leave Punisher in because he's got the double finisher, or do I chance bringing him in because he can't keep you down? He's only got, he's got the 2 hurts to put you back hurt. or the big finish.
That was a team that you really had so many levels of strategy you could add to it. To your point, Mike, I mean, it was just to have two really well-rounded wrestlers who teamed up so well. You could put them in a tag match against any tag team of that era, and it was going to be a fight.
Yep.
And if they were, for lack of a better word, if they were hardcore, they could go that pace if they needed to. They weren't afraid to get bloody or to give back.
No, they got title matches. They just never could win them. They could get there and then lose, and then they'd have to work their way back up and fight the new, whoever was champ back then.
I'm not finding this bio here. Just update you guys on that.
Oh, go right ahead.
I said I'm not finding it. That's my update.
All right, back to it then.
Yeah, carry on.
For me, Justice, I had him as a tall guy. I had him at 6'5" and 260 pounds.
He was larger. He was larger than normal. Great physique, good combination of strength, power, technique. The endurance, though, that was the killer. You're right. When you have 4 downs, it's very. I chalk that up to somebody who either got in the game later, because I didn't know what his age was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I chalked it up to, is maybe this is someone who's got into it in their 30s as opposed to like in their teens or 20s.
Yeah.
Because again, the background is the judge. How long does it take to become a judge, even in the future?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, he was kind of a Dave Bautista. I'm going to come to this later in life.
Do you guys want to hear his officially listed height and weight?
Yep.
He's 5'11", 252 pounds. He's just a little guy.
And like usual, I
explains
don't agree
much,
with most of them.
That explains much, though. And unfortunately, I always felt bad for Justice because Galactic Punisher would abandon him to go over to Kraken's team, hook up with Soldier of Fortune, change his name to Vigilante, and become an even greater tag team.
You said Kraken?
Yeah.
That's a new one.
Kraken. The Invincible Kraken.
I've never heard that.
It's Kraken.
So he says Kraken, I say Kraken. I've never heard anybody say Kraken.
Kraken. Oh my God.
Even Clash of the Titans.
It's definitely Kraken.
Kraken, Kraken, and Kraken.
Sounds like a law firm.
It does. But that's like, I always felt bad for Justice because as great as that team was, the Mercenaries were far better.
Oh.
It was just one of those things. As far as like longevity, titles, reigns, it was just. He was kind of like the Jerry Lewis. Him and Dean Martin were comic gold, but then Dean Martin goes to the Rat Pack and Jerry who?
How would you improve Justice?
Well, I'd get him on a treadmill for starters. Maybe take a down off here and there.
Yeah, that's an easy. He's got to lose it down.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
He's got to lose it down. Outside of that, I couldn't think of anything else that would improve him that significantly. Because again, the finisher to me kept him relevant.
And you remove it down, and he probably wins maybe a tag title.
Oh yeah,
he was the guy they'd get on level 3 offense and just beat the tar out of.
Yeah, he could dish out the punishment. He couldn't take it.
Yeah, take away a down. I think, and there's a whole new wrestler. Now you could do other things, but we just try to do one.
Yeah.
So with him, I think it's pretty unanimous. Just get rid of a down.
Yeah, it's the easiest way to do it.
And then later he goes through very much like Hammer. He goes through a transformation but I love how his came about. He stayed loyal to Commander Sam when he went Commando Sam. And the more intense Commando Sam got, the more Justice kept up with that zeal, eventually to the point of becoming Dark Justice.
You're way ahead of me, man. Slow down.
I'm sorry.
Dark Justice is infinitely cooler than Justice, by the way.
I know Tim keeps telling me he's like his longest reigning heavyweight champion or something.
Oh, yeah. Infinitely cooler.
And what's great is when Commando Sam sees what's happened and goes back to being Commander Sam and they try to back everything up, Dark Justice keeps going further into the rule breaking, into the heel persona, to the point where, in addition to shock probation, he adds the Rod of Justice.
Well, I think the whole name Dark Justice kind of gives it away.
And what a perfectly timed, what a perfectly timed for that name. It was the 90s. If you look at comics culture, everything was so dark that this character was a perfect reflection of that.
Right.
So dark. Are you from the DC universe?
He might be. He's so dark and foreboding. I think at one point he had a cape that would swirl around. No, I'm kidding. 90s comics, man. It wasn't a pretty time.
He did end up wearing a trench coat, though.
Yeah, he did.
Did he dye his hair black?
He did.
Yeah.
Knew
Grew out a beard. Not as good as yours, but
There's a little Tony Stark beard.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like I always liked that about the character was when it was time for him to go, he did it in a way where he was following where everybody else was going. He just took it much further. And that kind of became what the character was about. Was he was a character who would go as far as it would take to win his matches.
Right.
But we'll skip soon now to the topic.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is starting your Fed over.
Oh, no.
Ooh.
Okay, so our topic of starting over. Starting your Fed from scratch over again. How many of us do it? I know because of this, Thomas Keane has said he started his Fed over again.
Nice.
I know Brock, you yourself has said, you want to do it because you rushed through the so much of it when
I did.
First started playing.
I did.
And kind of mixed a few things up.
A lot of things.
Dreadnought and Red Bear as a tag team, but hey,
they were a great tag team.
it could work.
Time travel.
Yeah. There's nothing saying you can't relaunch your Fed at any time you choose.
No.
Right.
Todd Wozicki was on here, and he said he started his at least 4 times over. I know. You're going?
He goes all the way back to Legends, and Legends becomes GWF.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
I am so stealing that.
We talking about it here often because you could use bootlegs to fill in everything in between.
Right.
You can, the indie guys can be like, you can use those cards for 10, 15 years, and there's so many of them that you never run out of guys. So
I've restarted my Fed 3 times. Well, not 3. Like the original start was me and my buddy Rob. And we ran that from 86 to, I'd say 89 together. So 3 years we ran it together. And then I moved away and started my own Fed and used a combination of bootlegs that Mark Ashby had given me.
Oh, nice.
He printed out on his microdot printer. Guys like Mystic Slayer and Silicone and Mr. Who, What, Where, When, Why, and How. And Prince Zales, and so I had all these guys, and Rob I gave him a few, and then he had some guys in the GWF he didn't like. He didn't like Commander Sam Atom Blast, and Mutant. He didn't like them, so he gave them to me. So I had GWF guys in my Fed. And so we did that, and we would run our cards simultaneously. So if somebody got suspended wrestlers could go over to the other Fed. So they
Very
did
smart.
work. And then every 30 cards, we would switch out wrestlers. So wrestlers could switch side by side. And we did that for about another year. And then, we were going to the cons. So then I started, Tom gave me one of the lifetime deals. And I think I got the first 5 sets for $50 or something ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And
Those old Galacticon deals were amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's just a video. And so I started my Fed, and I threw everybody in it together. And it was right up into this set. So I threw them all together because that's what had come out. And I remember Bounty Hunter winning my heavyweight title and Count Necros winning my Galaxian. And I'm like, I don't like this because, none of the original guys were doing anything.
Right.
Santos was buried by then, and Starware was buried. And so I'm like, so I restarted my Fed for the 3rd time with no bootlegs, no throwing, 5 years worth of stuff into one start, and started over again, and went a year was 44 cards. I'd do 10 card super card, 10 card super card, and there'd be a year 44. And then I gradually shortened it down to 30. And then as I made the Fed, and it was so massive.
Yeah.
So many wrestlers.
Yeah.
I had a few bootlegs that I would keep in because they were such good characters, like Akuma and Armageddon and stuff like that. And so that's when I went, okay, I'm breaking my Feds up into 3. So I can just do what I want, shrink them down. So now it's only 18 cards per year, but almost every wrestler wrestles on each card because the Feds are shrunk so much. And so
I love that.
that's what I've done is 3 reboots. But the last reboot was 91.
Wow. That's a ways back.
Yeah.
That's before I was even playing.
Last reboot, I've only done 1 reboot. And the reason I did the reboot was before that, my playing was sporadic, and there wasn't a cohesion of how many cards a year, title defenders. And what got me to relaunch was the release of the Moleskines GWF Classics, where they filled in the gaps going back to 2074.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me inspired back in 2006 to do an entire GWF Classics for that period, starting in 2006. Then moving on to the next set of GWF results, going all the way from 2087 to 2109 to where we are today. Right now, I paused because I'm going to be moving later this month. I have to pack all this up. Paused at May of 2117. So, and by the way, God forbid I pass along, it's in my will that these get auctioned at Galacticon.
Nice.
But the reason behind why I wanted to do the reboot was because I played so sporadically. I wanted a chance to get something with an official title lineage going, and at the same time, it gave me a chance to revisit and enjoy those cards once again.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's good about this topic is we can take our perspectives and give folks some ideas of what they can, of some elements to look at when setting up.
Mm-hmm. For sure. The reason I'd want to do it is just to clean up my
Hold on,
history.
I have to interrupt real quick. A friend of mine wants to say hello to Lori Beck. I had to. Lori loves Dory. So. All right, Bubba. There you go, bud. Back to it.
Yeah, I just want to clean up my history and kind of work in some characters that were introduced later, like Duke of Destruction, Red Talon, and now that Akuma the Ninja's got an official storyline where he comes in 2090 as Thanos' bodyguard, kind of gatekeeper type character. I was trying to find that, I couldn't find it. It's on the board somewhere. If somebody can find it, post a link below. But,
Yeah, that's the that's if I just because Duke and Red Talon, I would love to. Now I'm working them into my Fed now, but just to put those guys in so I can have Exo King and Duke fight it out over, you know, who's the top dog and the bad guy.
yeah, and it might just change history of your entire, you know, you might have to continue on with Duke of Destruction if he completely dominates that. Just pull Exo King out and drop Duke in his story and go from there. And so many things can happen from that.
Yeah, you have an early Annie Man. You know, you get Wolf has a partner.
Yeah. He sucks, but he has somebody there.
But Wolf has survived. But Wolf could survive a sucky partner. He's Teflon.
He could.
He had Proteus, so that was about as sucky as you can get back then too.
It's true. I guess it's an upgrade from that. Yeah, I'd love to do it. I just don't know how far back I'd go. Maybe just 2087. I don't know if I get into the classics. I have it all, so it'd be kind of cool to do it. But
see, you also have it online too, so you could just make the cards out, and you know that they could be done in seconds.
that's cheating.
Right.
How is it cheating though?
Because you have to roll the dice to make it more fun.
I
Have a
don't know.
dramatic pause.
If I had it online, I'd be doing some things.
Can I share with you guys a hack I do to speed things up?
Sure.
Okay, one hack I do, if folks want to try this, is depending on the size of your Fed, pick out your top 5 or top 10 matches of that cycle. Those you do with the dice, everything else you do online. So that way you can, I see it as this is going to be the undercard before your pay-per-view.
Makes sense.
No.
So it's a good hack.
Still cheating.
Well, yeah. So much of what I do is cheating.
But win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat.
But also it's a time management, you know.
Yeah, that's a definite point there.
You know, it helps with the time management. Doing that takes.
What are we in the NBA?
Well, no, we're grown adults and busy people, you know. Unfortunately, the days of us, you know, spending hours playing, you know, unfortunately we can't do that anymore.
It's true.
So, you know, and so that's a good way. So, you know, using the online to do the undercard's a good shortcut. And one thing to consider when you're starting your Fed is get your time schedule, not your personal time schedule, because that's a whole different ball of wax and a whole different TED Talk for another page. But for your Fed, how many cards do you want to do? I say per cycle. You can also say per year, because, you know, it's like there's so many different ways you can call it: a cycle, a year, a season.
Yeah.
It's like, how many cards do you do? For my Fed, I do 12 cards a year where everybody wrestles.
Okay.
And a specialty match in the a specialty match card in the middle called the Gauntlet, where it's a 30-person elimination.
Okay.
And think of it as the Royal Rumble, but instead of over the top rope, pinfall, submission, and then 10 seconds later you're getting another opponent.
Yeah.
The record holder for who's been in there the most would be, in my Fed, would be Paragon. Eliminated 19 other wrestlers on his way to a victory.
Nice.
That's impressive.
The old record holder was Santos with 16. And at the end of the year, I do whatever the name of the set is. It'll be, the pay-per-view will be called, like for now would be Centra Uprising 2117 live on pay-per-view. And I get the 10 best feuds of the year, what I feel were the 10 best matchups for characters and everything else. I will give you that matchup, if there's a title involved, it's on the line. And if there's a specialty match that either one's known for, we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those, let's go all out on this one and let's make this a year-end card where everybody gets their money's worth. And I also use that card to introduce the talent coming in for the next set. Like, for example, end of 2093, I'm going to take the cards that are coming in 2094. I'm going to find ways to sneak them in. Like either being a run-in, or maybe I'll have an opening match where it's like, and for our opening match, we're going to take our first look at the collector's newest creation. And so that way you kind of like get their feet wet, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people kind of do that approach with the new sets, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. And as far as the bootlegs, for bootlegs and legend stuff, I tend to do mine in seasons, like a TV show season, because unfortunately it's hard to come up with a linear timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Given that we have wrestlers from different eras being introduced at different times.
Right.
So I just do it as season 1. And then between season 1 and season 2, I decide who I'm going to keep, who I'm going to get rid of. And then for season 2, that's when I'm going to start bringing in the new cards. So those are ways that people can approach it from a structure standpoint.
I like it.
I know Jeff Manning also just did a reboot a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
He posts his results online as well.
He's up to 2099 already. He's moving right along.
Yeah. Well, and again, he does everything online now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. And I think that's great that the online is starting to catch up with the old school stuff, because I'm loving that a new generation's enjoying what we enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Love that.
I like the color reimagined sets too. Those are nice.
Well,
The artwork for Cannibal might be my favorite of all time.
It's funny. It just popped up. That's what I was looking at. They just did. I can't really see on my phone.
Vanity. Yeah, I saw that.
Which is funny because Vanity plays it. I don't know if you've been watching our shows, but we're talking about doing an update, the Power Creeper.
Ooh.
So you know how we upgrade characters? Well, we're upgrading the Creeper.
Oh, that would be awesome.
And we're calling him the Power Creeper because it's how do you power creep every card? You know, because Brock and myself had made fun of the power creep in the game for years. So I think Butcher suggested the name the Power Creeper. And
Love
so
it.
I did a backstory with Creeper involving the Vanity.
Nice.
When it comes out, it's going to be interesting. And, you know, Paul Barnes just did the art. You saw the art. What do you think of it?
I love it.
Oh, you got Paul Barnes doing nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Paul's doing the art. It's all done. We're just going to look at it getting printed. And to get a copy, you got to tune into Brock's Twitch channel later on when we get them all printed up.
Yep. We'll have to figure out an event for that. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Just as an initial release, it'll be available other places later, but just want to throw it out there first. Probably free.
Yeah.
Or contest of some kind.
Yeah, contest for people for tuning into Brock's Twitch stream.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just funny that I saw that, and I'm like, oh. But the storyline that I came up with for Vanity is I'd say pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And Paul's art looks so cool. It's got that Chuck Carter feel. Chuck Carter feel. But with an updated color representation. I really like it.
And for the record, Power Creeper sounds like the best song by Judas Priest I've never heard yet.
Could be.
So it's going to be an interesting card, but you know, and that's something too you could just throw into the the mix.
Yeah, he'd be GWF ready.
Yep.
After some time. Like his original card it doesn't replace his original card. It's just an update for after he goes away.
Yeah, because you don't really know anything about his physiology.
Mhm.
And so this is after the Creeper.
Yeah.
Got the whole storyline worked out.
It's gonna be fun and a little ridiculous,
Yeah.
As it should be. It's the Creeper.
right?
Creeper he's such a classic. You know, how can you not have fun with the Creeper?
If you thought chaos was good, wait till you meet the power creeper.
The one thing I want to throw on in the topic of people wanting to reboot, always remember the golden rule. Are you having fun? If you're having
Exactly.
fun, you're doing it right. And to that end, if you try a reboot and it doesn't work, don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can always go back to the drawing board, and you can look at, okay, this wasn't fun. What didn't make it fun?
Just say what's an alternate timeline.
Yeah. You don't even have to say anything.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I've thought of almost wanting to restart, but actually follow Tom's storylines.
Yeah.
What I do is I use those as a narrative, not the narrative.
Oh, I haven't even, when I get the things, I don't even read the books. I'm so far gone. The only thing I get is the GWF files, so I know who's what.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
I'm like,
It's good.
I'm like, oh, Sleaze's brother is that guy? Oh.
What do you mean Dreadnought and Comrade Terror are the same guy?
When I figured out that Soldier of Fortune and Tong Soon were the same guy, that I was not ready for that.
So that's what I do is I'll read up the characters that I'm bringing in, just so I don't have any errors like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I didn't, I wouldn't know that Gemini and Vlad Hammer were the same guy.
Right.
Yeah.
They look nothing alike.
Well, look at Hector the Holy Brown Bear. How many characters he played before becoming
Allegedly.
Hector? Yeah.
They never proved it.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for one set where all of them come back at once.
Right. That'd be kind of funny.
I don't think it'll happen.
No, I'm pretty sure.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
But that's one of the other fun aspects of doing a reboot is you guys can play with such things.
Right.
Have characters of different incarnations interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
What's to stop Vlad Hammer from interacting with Gemini?
Certainly not time travel.
No. The one fun thing about this game is, yes, there's a linear component, but that doesn't mean you necessarily have to follow it.
Yeah.
You could have the just whatever makes you happy, whatever you think is going to bring you the most joy in this game, you follow it.
It's supposed to be fun.
Absolutely.
The one time I tried rebooting, it just wasn't fun. So that's why I kind of just abandoned that reboot. I tried to jump all the way to the current set. This was in 2130 when they did Future Shock, I think it was.
Okay.
And I just couldn't get into it because I'm like, I lost all that history just starting fresh with the current storyline. Couldn't get into it. So I'm just going to keep going back.
Didn't you say that when you rebooted, the reason it failed was because you tried to be so in-depth?
Yeah. Yeah, that was part of the reason too.
Okay.
Stats and all that fun stuff. And it was funny too, because I was playing with a bunch of people who had never played before at the comic book store. And I was trying to set them up to like get big wins. So I had Chaos Supreme take on Plethador. And I played as Plethador, like, oh, they're just going to smack me around and they'll get hooked because they win. And then I get Chaos to roll a Snake Eyes off this fluke 2-move match. And he loses. And then like, you've rigged that. You knew he was going to lose. I'm like, no, I swear to you, this was designed for you to win. So then we did a rematch and then he won again. I'm like, these people don't believe anything I say now.
No. You can't trust Plethador at an in-store. Okay.
No.
Just stop inviting him. He seems like a nice guy. He's a sponge. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let him in anymore.
Chaos Supreme went 2-0 against him.
Which is also my favorite thing to order at Taco Bell. Chaos.
Yeah.
Which I drink with an Ariana Grande. But that's the thing. You just mentioned two things that could hang you up in a relaunch. One was not being able to get into a story, into the storyline or storylines, and the other being, stat keeping. There's a lot of different techniques. What I'd recommend to folks of every level is definitely go to the boards, because a lot of people put up posts of their thought processes, how they do their stats, how they set up their cards. Take a look what other people are trying and pick what you like and try it for yourself.
Yeah, it's all right there. Everyone's pretty open about what they do too, which is nice.
Yep. Well, we should probably wrap this up here.
All right, let's put a bow on it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please check out all the links in the description below. You see some podcasts, including the official Roll Up podcast from Filsinger Games, the Legends team's Uncharted Territory, Lee Longpre's Dizzy Dice. We have some YouTube links there. Dave Little's.
Lee actually has his YouTube up now.
Lee has a YouTube too. Oh, I got to add that to that. I got to add that to the description. So hopefully I remember to do that. So it's there. Grant's YouTube solo promoter is excellent. He uploads multiple times per week. So he's got a lot of cool content to check out. I'm on Twitch. Check that out. It's linked below. And anything else, if you have Filsinger Games related content you'd like us to share, please send us a link. We'll drop it below and we'll get your content out there. And yeah, Jim, anything you got to plug?
Just any folks in the Pittsburgh area, come on down to South Park Theater. Theater company I'm working with, Rage at Stage Players, is putting on Miserable Creatures inspired by Mary Shelley's immortal classic Frankenstein, playing October 21st to the 22nd, the 27th through the 29th, and November 3rd to the 5th. Tickets will be available at South Park Theater. Warning ahead of time, this is mature audiences only. This is pretty much going to be a live action horror film. So definitely come on down, check that out. If you want more information, go to rageofthestage.com or look up Rage of the Stage on Facebook.
I'll put a link to that below too.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
No problem. I'm going to bookmark that right now so I remember to do that.
And now I want to find out what Creeper is and put him in this production.
He's going to be the best.
Yep.
Oh, I know. He's a power Creeper.
We're just building the talk behind them.
The power
Releasing a
Creeper.
little bit of tidbits of info every week.
We have to find somebody who's really good at guitar and have them write Power Creeper.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. If you have not yet, please click that subscribe button, give us a like, and tell your friends. And until then, we will see you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Later.